We're very excited to have Gretchen Green joining us. She is somebody we wanted to have in last year's summit, so I'm really excited to have her join us this year. Hey, Gretchen, welcome.
Okay, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So for Gretchen, for those who don't know you in our community, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a radiologist. I live in North Carolina. I've been in private practice here since graduating fellowship in 2006.
And tell us about your journey through real estate investing. How did you get interested and how did it start?
Well, fortunately, I had a good accountant who gave me some good information about her highest net worth clients. Now, I'd been hearing a lot of hype about real estate, and it seemed like everybody had a tip, and it was starting to feel a little bit like the shoe shine boy who's got all the stock tips. And I really had this gut feeling that this is just what happens in bubbles. It's just everybody's all enthusiastic and everybody is doing it, and then everybody pays the price and the market crashes, just like we saw with real estate crash back in 2008. It wasn't a theoretical thing. I lived through that and saw it happen firsthand. So I thought, well, I'm not going to get involved in that. That seems silly. So just keep on doing the traditional 401ks and things like that. But then my accountant said that her highest net worth clients are those with a real estate portfolio, specifically because a lot of those tax advantages that compound over time. And so I thought, maybe I better take a look at this. And just around that time, serendipitously, I got an email about Zero to Freedom. And I thought, okay, what's the craziest thing that can happen here, right? Let me just try it and I'll see how it goes. And with that, and then started reading and learning a lot about all the advantages, then I realized this is something that was really doable.
And so then you took action right away, jumped right in.
I did. And what was interesting is I identify a lot with a lot of doctors who were saying, okay, you got to start with the single family homes and you got to build a portfolio and then you trade up. And I think that makes sense when we're scared about taking big action and we don't think we know how to do it or have expertise in doing it. So of course it's natural to think, well, I better get good at it, doing it in a small way, and then I'll be able to do the big things later. That's how med school works. We're all taught that kind of mentality. But I went to Peter Kim's conference and talked to Corey Fawcett, talked to Jim Dolly extensively in the morning, who kind of talked me out of doing a lot of syndications because he said, yeah, and then I get 26 tax returns. And I think, well, that sounds very complex. I want to keep things a little simpler. And I talked to Corey Fawcett over lunch and he said, no. You can't start out small. You're a doctor. You got to go big. You got to have the confidence. You already do the hard things. And so you got to have the confidence. You got to go bigger with it. On the plane ride home from that conference in LA, I opened up Redfin or the equivalent on my phone, and I saw a 6-unit had gone on the market. So I thought, okay, well, forget those single family houses that I've been trying to drive around and see. Offered on the 6. And then that ultimately ended up passing on that deal to somebody else. Also in the Zero to Freedom community, which worked out really well. Mm-hmm. So that was a great opportunity to kind of, build some bridges and get some colleagues and, friends in doing that. And then I had this was the fall of 2019. I had some complications with my eyes. And I'm a radiologist. So this was, of course, very concerning to me. And it felt like, okay, if we don't fix this, everything's at stake here. And I'm 45 and not really willing to just retire at this point and pack it all in after this long. Like it was just getting good. And so literally on my way back from the surgery, and I was, partly under anesthesia still, had a bad reaction, felt horrible, was lying on the couch. I had one eye taped shut, the other one I couldn't see well, and I was facing this totally uncertain future. And my phone rang. It was a text from my agent who told me a 32-unit was an off-market deal, and was I interested? And I lay there on the couch and I thought to myself, this is impossible. I can't even, I'm on the couch under anesthesia right now. It's impossible that I can do this deal. I can't ever read anything right now. And then I lay there and I got kind of quiet and I thought to myself, what if this is what I have to do? What if I can't go back to work? I think this may be the time I got to start saving myself and really make sure I'm taking care of my future in a totally different way. Even the earnest money was a barrier. I thought, okay, I'm used to, $500 earnest money. That's not so bad. They wanted $7,000 just for the earnest money. So I had to, text a friend, and, I texted you guys, and I was kind of like panicking about just the zeros. And then I just told myself, okay, they're zeros. You just get used to more zeros the more you do. And so I placed the offer at market. And then I think a day later, an 8-unit went on the market. So then I had 2. And then it was like, oh, well, why not just an 8 at the same time, right? Like, it's totally insane. And so why stop here? Just let's, it was almost comical and absurd. Like, yeah, let's just, offer on 40 units at the same time. And because then the week later, I had my other eye done. So, because you do one eye, 1 week apart. And so, but having that experience of flipping my mindset to, I have to do this, it becomes non-negotiable. You stop debating about the decisions all the time and just say, I've decided and I'm moving on. It's like I run every morning. I don't sit there and think, is today a running day? No, it's going to happen. And so that was the starting point of this. And thank goodness, because I decided when the pandemic, I closed that in January of 2020. And then the pandemic hit. And then the rents all stopped. And there was eviction moratoriums. And I could easily at that point have said, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? I have just made the biggest financial mistake of my life. But I never went there. I just said, nope, it's never negotiable. This is how it's happening. I know what to do. I have a big runway. I had a HELOC in place that I'd negotiated. I negotiated 15% down commercial loans. That was a big part of the success at 3.8%. And I said, okay, I've already put in all the work, and now it's just making it happen every day.
And I remember that when you had so many properties under contract and so many units, and it was your first time, and you were trying to figure out like how to do it all, and how remarkable that you, effectively, I think just deciding is one way to put it. And we've definitely had our coaches say to us, well, if you're not doing something, it's because you haven't decided to do it. But also kind of you burn the boats in a way that you realize like this had to be the way that you were going to earn some money, because if the other way didn't work out, then you had no options, right? So you kind of burn the boats in your mind of, I'm going to make this work. And certainly that's helped you have all the success that you have. It's incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah. And also having the element of community, involving other people in the process in different ways is something that became very important to me over the course of 2020. I did even when, when we go through pictures, we can talk about, some of the things that made it somewhat difficult sometimes to continue to provide, involuntarily free housing to many people for many months, at the personal cost of tens and tens and thousands of dollars. I had to, at my heart, remember I am helping people in ways I will never know. This is a ripple effect. And I kept that in communications that were sent to tenants. Recently I sent a communication out to tenants about rent increases that will go into effect next year. And I identified myself anonymously, but that this is a family-owned business by a single mom with 2 kids. It was important that my tenants know that this is a personal, it's personal and it's business to me both, but this is not a corporation. This is me, and it matters. This is a 2-way street. So I provide you housing, and I understand the tangible and intangible benefits of that. And you have your end of the contract, which is the lease and, the tenant agreements. So that was important to me. The other thing in 2020 that became very important was, as I saw very rapidly physicians getting pay cuts, losing benefits, even getting furloughed and getting fired. I have done a lot of expert witness work. And so I have a large marketing network of 8,000 plus lawyers. And so I was hearing from lawyers hey, we need doctors to review these cases, but we don't want to call anybody because we're sure that you're out saving everybody from COVID. And I said, oh, so about that, as it turns out, everybody's getting their pay cut. They have time on their hands. Doctors are looking for work. This seems like a match made in heaven. Mm-hmm. And people said, well, when I would float the idea, well, what if I do a course, for doctors who want to be expert witnesses? And people told me, you mean you want to put yourself out of business? You want other people to take all the work? And I said, no. Yeah, there's plenty of work for everybody, but we need the best people doing the best job at this work, which makes us all better. Mm-hmm. And so I started actually the coaching program with Sunny Smith, Empowering Women Physicians, the summer of 2020. Mm-hmm. And it has just all been one very large move after the next. Starting the expert witness course, then, with all the properties, turning those around, and, going through a divorce, it's all the same thing. It all comes down to the mindset and how you're going to make things work for you. And I use the tough times to help me stay motivated to focus with absolute clarity on the most important actions that I can take.
Incredible. Really incredible. So before all of this, you weren't an entrepreneur, right, at all. And now you're an entrepreneur with multiple businesses, your real estate business, your coaching business, your course business. I mean, pretty incredible.
And that owner mentality is something that I think is very important for physicians, as much as 3/4 of physicians now are employed. Having an employee position, and I'm now currently employed as an employee, not a partner anymore, but I was a partner in a large radiology practice for 10 years. That mentality was very important to me. It was so important that I was an owner, that I had skin in the game, that I was a part owner of that business. I really dove deep into it, was on finance committee, really learned all that I could about the workings and how a practice functions. But then I went to become an employee, but as I did that, I built my expert witness business. So it was baby steps, with the expert witness business, just, one case at a time. And then from that gave me some of the infrastructure to help build more businesses. And now I get to tell myself, if I'm thinking of doing something different, oh, it's easy. It's easy because I know how to do that. I've already gotten those skills. But sometimes I have to think, which skill am I going to put to work to make this solution happen? Mm-hmm. And it still takes time. It's not all easy, but it is multiplied on itself. It is not additive. So when people say, oh, you just get a little busier here and there, you do a little more all the time. No, you start multiplying. It becomes exponential with what you build on and how you put those skills to work. And so now my primary identity is, I'm an entrepreneur. I am a business owner. I am the captain of my ship. And when you face really big life things like divorce, struggles with health. I broke my arm a few weeks ago. It would be the easiest thing in the world to be a victim of circumstance. Oh, these things happen, it's terrible. It happens to me. But I become more and more resistant to that as I think, no, it's happening. And I'm going to choose how I react and choose what I do. So
incredible. Yeah, so many good pearls in there. And one thing I really remember about interacting with you a couple of years ago when you took this 32-unit property is how much you took control as the CEO of this property and were involved in everything and just totally turning it around, because it wasn't a perfect property when you got it. So let's talk about how you turned it around. And then I really want people to hear how much you were leading the process. You were not just passive in it. You really took the ownership.
I did, even to doing the inspections with the staff, where I walked the inspections. And of course, I sort of laughed to myself as I went along. I'm in a t-shirt and jeans, and I'm thinking to myself, here's one of the times where it's great to be a 5'2" woman. These people have no idea that I'm the owner. It does not cross their mind that I'm actually the one who owns the place. I would just stand there taking notes. Okay, sure. Yep. We'll take a look at that drain. But yeah, I took notes. I had spreadsheets. I knew every repair. I was deep in the financials. Put everything into QuickBooks. And your course is great for doing that. The Fast Fire bookkeeping course in QuickBooks, such a powerful financial tool, but one that keeps your head in the game. If there's anything that these tools are really good for, it's engagement. And making the decisions and the back and forth, right? I would never have gotten as good a deal as I did on my commercial loans if I hadn't been talking with Joe Weitzel, in Washington, and him telling me information and then me bringing it back to my local lender and saying, well, here's what I'm thinking. How might you work with that? And their first answer was, we don't do that. We don't do 15% down loans. Commercial 3.8%. No, we don't do that. Well, then they thought a little bit about it, and actually they talked to Joe. And then I said, well, why don't you guys talk together and see how that's possible? And that's how the financing worked so great. So it's true. It was a lot of work, but I also knew I had a why, and looking at reps status was really key. And this came back to the original goal of how do I get something as an investment that will increase my net worth in an exponential way and save me a lot on taxes. And then it was, what can I do right now that is massive action? And so, volumes were way down. I knew the breast center just didn't have the volume to pay two of us. And so when my boss called me, I already had my answer. My boss called me and said, here are the options. We won't let you down. And this is why I work for, the best practice around is there's, we're not going to leave you high and dry. You want to continue to work, we've got the work for you. We'll put you to work, we'll pay you. But if this is a time when you need some time, we can also make that work too. Mm-hmm. And I paused for a moment and all I could think was like reps was like in neon, flashing. And I said, yep, that's okay. I can take some time. I don't want to cost you money for work that you're not getting your value from. And yes, I can put my time to work. So, homeschooling the kids, building the expert witness business, and then working on reps. And so then with reps, in that year, we did cost segregation analysis for the 32 and the 8-unit property, wiped out my taxes for the year, and did a multiple $100,000 Roth conversion. So paid myself for the future and just decided, okay, how much do I want to do? Where do I want to peg the tax rate? And felt like I just squeezed every bit out of everything that year.
Amazing.
And one other thing you did, you said you have your kids working for your real estate business too. And not many people have taken advantage of that. So can you quickly talk about that?
Yeah, they actually work for my expert witness business. Mm. So they have 401k, I'm sorry, they have Roth IRAs that because they make a salary. So they, I mommy match them. And so put that in there. So they've got sizable Roth IRAs. They started with very basic skills with doing mailings. So they could stamp and sticker envelopes. I still do a paper mailing a thank you at Thanksgiving time, thanking lawyers for their business, but most of it's now internet, email based. I do about 8,000 plus lawyer mailing a year on email. And so now they're going to be expanding their skills to doing some database work. So that's another thing where, but they do walk the properties. So I've actually taken them to my real estate properties and said, this is what I own. This is what I work on. And they heard my frustrations, during pandemic saying, I don't understand a system where I'm being mandated to provide free public housing for people and still pay taxes. Like I'm still paying all these expenses. But I said, okay, but here's what we're going to do. Here's the plan. Mm-hmm. And so they understood that things aren't always fair, that hard work will always pay off. And you have to learn to manage those emotions and then keep the highest goal still at the forefront.
And they saw your resourcefulness, which I imagine was really an incredible thing for them to see, and they'll tap into down the road as well.
I hope so. If there's one thing, like if I could put it on my gravestone, it would be that you're not a victim of circumstance, that your life, you can be, and your life will be very different if that is how you operate. But when you decide to be the owner and you're in control and driving the outcome, how you show up as a person is totally different. And so that's, now, with meeting somebody new in my life after my divorce, that's something that is probably the driving part of our relationship, that we are here to show up as our best possible selves in what we do and who we are. And that's why when we commit to each other, we're committing in a totally different way, I think, than I've ever had in a relationship before. So that this stuff translates to everything you do when it's who you are.
Well, talk to us about that during COVID, because I think it's very easy for people to be a victim of circumstance, right? In that situation. And it sounds like, that's not what you did. And so I would just kind of love to hear what that was like. How long did it last? What were some of the pain points? And then like, where are you now with that?
For me, there were three areas, because actually I'm still serving on the board for Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama. And camp almost went bankrupt, because when you can't have campers in a summer and your budget depends on revenue from camp, the camp almost completely went under. This is the #1 camp in America, according to the New York Times. The museum, the Space and Rocket Center, is the #1 museum in the South, according to our Southern Living. These are amazing resources to inspire people to achieve their own highest goals through education. Whether or not you become a rocket scientist or not, it just means you're the kind of person who's shooting for the stars in everything you do. So for me, there were these three categories. There was helping physicians achieve financial independence by building expert witness businesses. And that to me was very important, because I knew no one's going to bail you out. And when you have the money and you have control over the skills that you've worked so hard, everything else becomes better. That summer we had the Save Space Camp campaign, where we raised grassroots millions of dollars to save this organization to help kids have this educational opportunity. And then the real estate, where I knew at the end of the day, if I'm providing housing to people, that benefit, I have to believe. It's where you kind of close your eyes and kind of, pray a little bit and just say, I have to believe that they are better for it, but I won't know how. It's that butterfly effect, where the butterfly flapping of the wings makes the breeze that travels around the world. And so all I think is any one of these things can have that positive effect. Already, for expert witness work, I've had students who've gone to trial, and I'm watching them go on this process. And, for them, that's closing on their deal. Every time they get a new case, well, it's like they got a new short-term rental, because it's similar skills and business building.
Amazing.
So let's talk about where you are now with your real estate portfolio and where you want to go.
I currently own 46 units, and they are comprised of a 32-unit complex and a 8-unit building, and now a 6-unit building that also has some additional land parcels. I also then got into some syndications, and I did that purely based on people I knew. So, I would love to tell you, yes, I read that prospectus and I knew the finances, but really it was the people. I had read Matt Faircloth's book on getting capital when it's combating the I don't have any money, how do I buy real estate idea. And so I read his book and I jumped on the phone with him. And I remember, and this is actually one of the other factors. And I said, Matt, tell me, do you have new deals that are coming? And, what do you think might be good, for investing? You have any opportunities? And he said, Gretchen, I think you're going to be fine doing it yourself. And I thought, God, no, I wanted the easy answer. You just tell me fund 4C and I'll just send you a check. Like, rats, I got to do it myself. And I was like, yeah, he's right. He joined the category of some of my best teachers in life who have said, yeah, I think you're going to do that yourself. Like, okay, I'm not off the hook. However, now I'm strategically investing with syndications, both of him and Victor and Kate Mangona, because I know them, I know how they think. And when we're part of this group, including the community like empire builders, that's the credibility. You know that these are people who are coming from the best place. And so those syndications now play an important role for being passive income, which helps offset the active income from the rent. And I didn't know that going in quite where those puzzle pieces were going to fit. And so now, of course, it's even more exciting because I think strategically about those puzzle pieces. I'm considering short-term rentals. I've just done the Accelerating Wealth course, that you guys have, and looking at that as a way to get similar tax benefits as reps, but with a slightly different approach, maybe more doable now for the kind of life that I'm hoping to be going towards as I, transition more through employment and all that later. So it's just tools and strategy now. I do not have a plan to acquire any more active real estate. I'm not looking. I am focusing on managing what I have, optimizing. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty much done with renovations. I sank 100,000 into the 32 unit rapidly, especially as soon as we could get somebody out of the unit, it was renovated. Because there was no telling with eviction moratoriums when anybody would vacate. There was a disincentive. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness, because costs of things like LVP went up 50%. Mm-hmm. And again, the reason I do know that is I went on site. I was looking at the boxes, and then I was at Lowe's. I was looking at the grades of LVP, and these were all reps hours. So it was a really good foundation. But now I can step back slightly. Because I paid such close attention to all those details early on.
Yeah. And so one thing I want to point out to people is that you got reps that 1 year, right? That you cut back on your work and with all that stuff going on. But then the next year you didn't get reps. You chose to go back, be a physician full-time, right? And at that point now you had that passive income coming in from your properties. So you created passive losses with syndications. And so you're just, you're moving the pieces around, the chess pieces on your puzzle of real estate to shelter income, but then also maximize your cash flow. So,
well, and then now short-term rentals,
right,
sheltering the active income again. So that's, right. I love that. Very cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So now it's incremental. It's okay. Strategic renovation, constant improvement to the properties, optimize the performance of them through the rent, which of course is increasing the value of the portfolio overall.
And we're going to take a look at your properties in a separate section on the rehabs, and we'll look through what you bought them for and how they increased in appreciation. But I want to ask, do you have any kind of closing thoughts, any advice you have for people considering getting into investing in real estate?
The mindset is not marginal. So I used to think that if you had a basically good idea or a good product, that you could make it 10% better by having a positive attitude and thinking and working hard at it. But now I know it's really a strategic mindset. It's not so simple as a positive attitude. It's a strategic attitude of how can I do this? How can I improve? How can I make this possible? What is possible that I never thought about before? Can I flip it 180 degrees and consider it from a totally different perspective? What if it's not the thing I can't do? What if it's the thing I must do? And so that's been what has brought me through and really made these large gains in net worth with the portfolio and the performance. It's only been the mindset. The rest of it was the 10%. The mindset was the 90+%.
Mm-hmm. And I hope people heard throughout this interview, you have asked quality questions of yourself. Mm-hmm. I've heard it now multiple times. You're asking those questions of yourself that you know that you're resourceful enough to come up with the answers, and the answers are going to get you to the next level. And the questions are, how can I do this? What can I do to change the situation? Like there's
who can help me?
Yeah, so many good quality questions you have peppered through this interview. Mm-hmm. And for those who want some good thinking time questions, besides the ones that Gretchen has really offered up for us today, is Keith Cunningham's book, The Road Less Stupid. Asks all kinds of great questions, and quality questions bring quality answers from inside. And then you go and you act on it. and you know the answer already inside of you. It's remarkable.
What's really important too is to ask those questions kindly, because sometimes I get to the drill sergeant mode with myself. And I finally envisioned this one day where it was as though I was on the ground doing push-ups, and I myself, the drill sergeant, was looking down at myself saying, go faster, do this. Why aren't you doing more? In this kind of tone. And then I realized I should work on getting a little easier with myself, where I can say, okay, how could I do that differently? What are the choices here? What do I want to do? And understanding a key component along the way has been, I'm not going to look back. I'm not second guessing myself ever. I am deciding with information and I'm moving on. And that's a way of being nice to yourself. That's really important, because you don't want to do things moving forward if you think you're going to just give yourself a hard time about it later. So that component of asking those questions, I think, is just as important as the questions you ask yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Really, really, really important. People do the best that they can at the time with the information they have. And that goes for you too, right? And you can give yourself grace. We are all going to make errors. We're all going to have make the wrong decision at some point, or whatever the wrong decision is. But, we learn from it, we grow from it, and you did the best you can at that time. So beating yourself up is not going to help anyone. So much good stuff, Gretchen. Thank you so much for your time. And for those of you who want to see her properties, go over to that rehab video next. Thank you for joining us.